Goals and Growth fam, a warm welcome to you. Now, I've checked out a few Jordan Peterson videos. I've really enjoyed his content and I just enjoy how real the guy is, right? He speaks what he believes in, he sticks by it, he doesn't budge. And you know what? That's how it's supposed to be in life. If you truly believe in something, if that is part of your personality, if that is part of who you are, you should stand by it. You should stand by your values and your morals. Now, today's video is titled Jordan Peterson Humbles Overconfident Student Who Tries to Cancel Him. Now, I can imagine someone who has the debates that he has, someone who has the arguments that he has, is finna get cancelled in this, how shall we say it, sensitive society. But at the same time, man, I really do enjoy his content, so I'm sure a lot of you also find it very interesting to listen to. Now, let's tune in together today. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you go and check out your free motivational ebook that I've compiled especially for you. Now, this purpose of this ebook is to expose you to the strategies that I use on a daily basis to keep motivated, to keep disciplined, to keep on grinding until we're at the top. So make sure that you go and check out the motivational ebook. It's a way to say thank you, of course, for your precious time today. Other than that, let's get to it.
Exchange that's gone viral for all the right reasons. Jordan Peterson faces off against a student armed with a barrage of loaded questions. The student attempts to pin Peterson down on his views regarding social hierarchies using terms laden with assumption and accusation.
Let's hear it.
Peterson navigates this minefield with the grace of a seasoned intellectual. Jordan Peterson did not hold back.
As you might imagine, you've been a topic of conversation on this campus a lot in the past week or so, certainly among a lot of us who discuss politics. And one of the things that sort of united people who like and dislike a lot of your ideas is that we appreciate your defense of free speech, and we appreciate you coming here to talk about it with us. But one of the things I thought was really interesting is Professor Van Dyke addressed the distinction between you and Jonathan Haidt. And you mentioned this as sort of a temperamental one. And I think, I'm sure that's true to some extent, but I noticed you've made a lot of more sort of substantively inflammatory claims. Like in the course of this lecture, you called the authors of Facebook.
Man's trying to flabbergast them with big words here.
Demons and totalitarians. In past events, you've called them things like neo-Marxists, cultural Marxists. You've called them, I believe, a fifth column that is committing treason against the West. And it seems to me this is more than temperamental. This is a substantive difference. And
it's
another,
a substantive
yes,
difference.
And another thing you've done is that, unlike Haidt, you have a more sort of comprehensive political program. You've talked a lot in defense of traditional hierarchies, both of gender, of class, so on, though emphatically not of race. And so it seems that
I haven't talked about defense of traditional hierarchies in terms of gender and class. That's not true.
Well, you've talked about hierarchies in society. You've talked
Yeah,
about
that's true. I have done that, but I haven't justified them on the basis of gender and class. Whatever it was,
okay,
categories.
you talk
not
about,
okay. That's an important distinction.
Okay, but you defend hierarchies in society in a way that you talk a lot
Get
about
to
the
the
Pareto distribution. Yes.
That doesn't mean I defend it.
Well, okay.
No, not okay.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think you talk
Observing that something exists is not the same as defending
it.
How
Of course
in the world
not.
people attack it, right?
What's that?
And you don't. People attack it.
Attack
it's inherently attack the hierarchies of society is inherently unjust, right?
Well, they're unjust, but they're also useful.
Okay, so you say they're useful. Some
Well,
people would disagree
look at
with
it
that
this way.
proposition.
Okay, look at it this way. You obviously think that it's worthwhile to stand up and ask a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you think that standing up and asking a question is better than not standing up and asking a question. Okay, that's a hierarchy of values.
Yes.
Okay, without the hierarchy of values, you couldn't act.
Of course.
No, not of course.
Well, wait.
It's partly why I'm defending the hierarchy. Without a hierarchy, there's no impact to act.
Yes.
The student's confrontation with Jordan Peterson centers on allegations that Peterson defends social hierarchies, particularly regarding gender and class, and uses inflammatory rhetoric against critics, implying a broader political agenda. These accusations stem from misconceptions about Peterson's work, notably confusing observation of societal structures with endorsement and misunderstanding Peterson's critique of certain ideologies as personal attacks.
Yeah.
The student's argument...
And I mean, to defend him, in his defense, I've watched a couple of his interviews, I've watched a couple of his arguments and his debates, but I mean, just as he said, just because you talk about something openly, just because you have a debate about something, it doesn't mean, you're necessarily an advocate for it. You're just, exposing you're just telling it like it is, right? Social hierarchies, I think without social hierarchies, how is society even going to function? I personally think it'll be utter chaos if there's no social hierarchies. Now, not necessarily, it's not good to justify that on the basis of gender, of course, but at the same time, I do believe that social hierarchies, they do give order to society in a way, right? Because just think about a society without social hierarchies. It will be chaos. Utter chaos, in my opinion.
Oversimplifies Peterson's nuanced discussions on human psychology and societal structures, misinterpreting his exploration of hierarchies as support for inequality. Peterson's response clarifies his position, emphasizing the distinction between acknowledging societal phenomena and advocating for them, thus highlighting the inaccuracies in the students' accusations and assumptions.
There is a hierarchy in society, right?
No, there's multiple hierarchies.
There are
in
multiple
society.
hierarchies in society, right?
Yes.
And you say that they are based in, you invoke the lobster, right? That they are based in nature.
I
Yes.
said that they were inevitable.
Yes, that they were inevitable. Some
Right.
people
That
disagree
doesn't
with
mean that they're
but,
good.
But my point is that this is generally relevant to it. You have a broader point than free speech. This is one of the things you talk about. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas I think there are some other activists who focus on more exclusively
I'm not
on
an
free speech.
activist.
There's some other individuals who engage in public political speech. Okay.
This
Yeah.
guy's trying to be...
Who focus more exclusively on free speech, whereas you have other goals in mind. But one of the things that your more inflammatory language, and it's fair, it's a substantive disagreement, has done, I think, is it's politicized this free speech to an extent that someone like Haidt hasn't. I've noticed that when someone hears the term free speech now, they associate it with a specific set of thinkers, often as viewed as on the extreme right. And I think arguably that's the problem of all factions in society, because free speech should be a universal value. Polls certainly suggest that it's coming under increasing...
How is free speech on the far right, though? Because, okay, left and right in different political settings have different meanings, obviously. The right in South Africa is going to be different from the rights in America, right? But at the same time, I would view freedom of speech as more of a leftist thing, isn't it? I don't know. Let me know your opinion on that.
Society, because free speech should be a universal value. Polls certainly suggest that it's coming under increasing threat from both sides. But I suppose the heart of my question, in addition to, of course, these other observations, is that do you believe free speech is your primary end, or do you believe these other points you're making are important? Because I've heard you a bunch of times defend free speech sort of contextually, like you've complained about some of the laws in Canada that you dislike, that they institutionalize false facts into the law. But it seems to me that an absolutist defense of free speech makes no preference as to true or false. The point is that something, you are being forced to say something. It would be as bad as if you were forced to say something that is true, because the point of free speech is that you can say whatever you want, right?
No,
And
the point of free speech is so that you can think your way through
Yes.
life without running like
But
headlong
being
into a
told
brick
to
wall.
think
Yeah.
position A versus position B is just as bad, right? Even if one is true and the other is not.
Okay, well, there was a bunch of questions.
Yes.
Good job, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, actually, wait, can I just ask one additional addendum?
You can literally sense the students'
I must admit, I see the guy's trying to push his buttons, but at the same time, he is asking quite. I mean, these are things that he never gets confronted with, right? He always wins his debates easily, always wins his arguments easily. But this is a bit more challenging.
There was a bunch of questions.
Yes.
Good job, by the way.
Well, actually, wait, can I just ask one additional addendum?
You can literally sense the student's arrogance as he attempts to pigeonhole Jordan Peterson. He cannot even make one coherent argument because his intention is not to ask a question, but to display his own intelligence and supposedly expose Jordan Peterson. But Jordan Peterson did not fall for it. Instead, he dismantled the student without even saying much.
Let's get it.
On the issue of hierarchies, Peterson's clarification strikes at the heart of a common misconception. Observing that hierarchies exist within society isn't an endorsement of their every outcome.
Fact.
It's a call to understand these structures more deeply. Peterson invites us to scrutinize, not just accept or reject. Jordan Peterson's response on the purpose of free speech reminds of a quote by Alfred North, where he said, "The purpose of thinking is to let our ideas die instead of us." The student's approach implicitly suggests that free speech is valuable only insofar as it aligns with certain ideological viewpoints or societal structures, particularly criticizing Peterson for what they perceive as his defense of traditional hierarchies and use of what they consider to be inflammatory language. This perspective misinterprets the foundational principle of free speech, which is not about endorsing specific ideas, but about protecting the marketplace of ideas,
Yes, sir.
ensuring that dialogue remains open and that no single authority has the power to determine which opinions can be expressed. Peterson's response to the student, though not delving into an explicit lecture on free speech, embodies the principle's true essence. By addressing the student's accusations with clarity and refusing to be pigeonholed into a simplistic ideological stance, Peterson demonstrates free speech in action. He underscores the importance of dialogue and the exchange of ideas as mechanisms for understanding complex societal issues, rather than as tools for winning arguments or silencing opposition.
I think the politicization of free speech is by far the biggest threat to free speech, because this has always been...
the radical leftists are the biggest threat to free speech.
So this is...
But I get your point.
The professor alluded to in previous questions, the substantive threats to free speech in much of the world, in Europe certainly, I think in the United States as well, from the government, have come from the radical right. And I think it's fair to say that on the specific narrow subset of certain departments on liberal arts colleges, it's fair to say a threat comes from the left, though its scope is in dispute. But my question is, do you think that the way you talk about free speech, the way you link it to specific issues, the way you use inflammatory language, and the way you seem to make it, you seem to defend a specific set of free speech. There are certainly plenty of instances of free speech attacking the other side that you don't mention as much. Do you think you risk politicizing this? Because it seems to me that... Okay, and do you not think that's a far greater threat? Because, for example, the NRA... Well, sorry, the NRA is a group in the United States that defends guns rights, right?
Okay, hold it.
Yeah.
We need a question.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, like I said, you're doing fine, but it's just too much. Like, I can't keep it straight.
Do you think that your behavior risks politicizing it, and do you think that politicization is justified?
I think my behavior risks politicizing it.
Of course.
Yes. I would rather it not be politicized, and I'm doing what I can to manage that risk. However, it's become political in my country because the government implemented compelled speech legislation. So I wasn't complaining about that before it became political.
Jordan Peterson's calm yet firm handling of a potentially volatile...
All right, ladies and gents, it's now I do believe this is one of the more interesting ones. Now this is one that he really had to sit and think, because the kid, I mean, this is a clever guy. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't think this is the first time I've really seen him kind of pushed intellectually, but as per usual, handled it very, very smoothly at the end. Now, what do you think? What is the true importance of societal hierarchies? Do they prevent chaos, or can we live without them? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let's start the debate. I'll be seeing you next time.